Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome. Welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. Right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on great radio stations across our great state of Michigan. And indeed, it is a great state, isn't it? Is it perfect here? Of course not. Could things be better? Of course they could. But I'll tell you what, I've had the opportunity over the years to travel to a fair number of places and do some pretty cool outdoor adventures. And I've always looked forward to getting back home to Michigan. There's no other place I would rather live. Now, is it nice to go somewhere once in a while and visit and maybe take a break from winter or whatever, just to see some new scenery, some new critters, some new wildlife, some new fish? Yeah, absolutely it is. But I've never had a desire to end up based anywhere other than here in Michigan. I'm a Michigan guy. I admit it. Well, this is the first full weekend in March that you and I have had a chance to talk. March, to me, is kind of an interesting month. It's one of those, I call it a shoulder month. It's not really winter. It's not really spring. It's just kind of out there. Oh, I am seeing, though, some signs of spring, and not the skunks. The skunks have been around for a while now. Still haven't seen the red-winged blackbirds. I haven't seen any sandhills yet. People were saying, too, that, we were talking about robins. And I said, to me, a robin is just not a sign of spring because they're here. I've seen them here 11 months a year. Most of them, of course, head south, which again begs the question, why do we have a state bird that abandons us in the wintertime? To me, that doesn't make any sense. Let's pick something that stays here with us through the heart of the winter, through the cold, through the snow. But I guess there are more important things to worry about these days, aren't there? I have noticed that we've still got ice on the pond behind the house. And the geese, there are 4 geese that already are staking out their territory. I know that those 4 geese are going to be a pain in my side now for the next several months. Because they're going to come in there, they're going to make nests, they're going to have little ones. I think, and I don't know this for a fact, but I feel like that the birds that come back to the pond every spring, the core birds, the 4 or the 6 or the 8 or however many they are, I feel like they're the same birds that come back year after year. Maybe I'm wrong. If so, I'm sure you'll let me know. My email address, by the way, is mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. If you hear me misspeak, if you hear me make a mistake, if you don't agree with what I say, send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. So what else is going on this time of year? A lot of folks are out shed hunting. Now, I'm talking southern Michigan, the southern part of the state. Here, as I look out the window, there is no snow at all. Now, I know if I was in the Yup, if I was talking to my buddy Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer, or Richard P. Smith, or any of my friends up in the UP, they'd say, Avery, why we can't be looking for sheds. Now there's too much snow. But down here, people have, the maple trees have been tapped for a while. Folks are looking for sheds. There's already some people doing some frost seeding on their food plots. Getting a little bit of a head start on that. And speaking of food plots, next week I have Rich Krzan of Killer Food Plots scheduled to be on the show with me to talk about the spring food plot planting season. I've told you before, we are going to use Rich's services this year more than ever before. We've got some food plots that just didn't produce. Now, I wonder, though, this year if that's going to be as big of a factor, because I am convinced. I don't know this for a fact, but based on what I hear, what I see, some of the rumblings I hear coming out of Lansing, I think we're going to be able to bait for deer in the Lower Peninsula this year. I just think it's going to happen. And if you can bait, does that mean that food plots are no longer as big a deal as they have been the past several years? I've had to rely on food plots to attract deer. The lease property that we have is a beautiful piece of property, but it really doesn't hold that many deer. You've got to give the deer a reason to be there. And we've tried to do that with food plots, and we've had some success. And, people will say about, bait, that, it turns the deer nocturnal. I tell you what, we've got far more pictures, and I'm going back here a few months to the season. We have far more pictures of deer in those food plots after dark than we did during the daytime. So what, do food plots turn deer nocturnal too? It'll be interesting. What else is, I do not think that the concept of a bait license has a chance. It's still out there in one form or another in the House and the Senate, but I don't think that's going to go through at all. People have been asking me about the status of the bill in the state legislature that would help fund the DNR Fisheries Division, but also allow for Great Lakes trolling anglers to use more rods. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know the status on that one. As I was saying it, I'm thinking, this is something I need to check on. Let me make myself a note. Trolling rod legislation. I've been saying for a long time that our Michigan hunting and fishing laws need to be simplified. It's just absolutely crazy. And how did they get so complicated and convoluted over the years? What happens to take a good law, a straightforward law, a law based in safety, or a law based in game preservation, right? I have no problem with a law that is designed to keep people safe, oftentimes from themselves, or a law that is designed to protect the wild fish and wildlife. Obviously, there's no problem with that at all. But when you go to the point where you've got fish and game laws that are so crazy that say you can't lean, say you're out bird hunting and you come back up to the truck at lunch, that you can't lean your loaded shotgun against the truck, or you can't put it on the tailgate. Or, and my favorite one, because this is my pet thing here, what does it matter how many rods an angler uses? Say a Great Lakes trolling angler. If we're talking on the pier, if we're talking an inland lake, if we're talking ice fishing, that's a different deal. But when you've got the Great Lakes out there and you've got almost unlimited volume of water, area of water, what does it matter? Well, you're gonna deplete the resource. No, you're not. The fishery is still protected by the size limit and the creel limit. Say on Saginaw Bay, they want you to take more fish. That's why it's an 8-fish limit of 13 inches. Now, that's a lot of fish, right? But you are limited to 8 fish per angler and a 13-inch limit. It doesn't matter how many rods you use to catch those fish. It doesn't matter how long it takes. So what? So a person goes out there and catches their limit in 2 hours instead of 3. What does that matter? It doesn't matter. Have you renewed your DNR licenses yet? I just realized I was set up for auto renew. I got an email from the DNR. Congratulations, Mr. Avery. Your licenses have been renewed. Which is kind of a convenience. I do like that. I don't like paying the senior rate. I'll tell you that right now. And this is something that gets me in trouble every year about this time. I pay $43 for my combo deer tag, my all species fish, my base license, which is a small game. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculously cheap is what I'm saying. And even when I paid the full rate of $76, I don't think there's a better value out there that you can hunt and fish every day for a year if you want to for $76, and yet people gripe about it. Of course, people gripe about everything these days. Our next Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch is coming up, Tax Day, April 15th. We're now taking reservations. Call 989-343-0892, 989-343-0892. Because I know phone numbers are just kind of confusing on air, so send me an email that Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'll give you that phone number, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Coming up on this week's show, after the break, I was thinking I haven't talked with Mr. Angler Quest, Brad Dupuie, for a while. I want to see what's going on in his world, what the new designs are, see how boats are selling, how is the boating world in general. Then Ben Nielsen of Showspan talking about the big Grand Rapids show coming up here very soon. In our second hour, Tom Simmon from My High Pressure Air. It's a Michigan-based family-owned company. They deal with high-end air guns. Then Russ Clark of Seahawk Charters down in St. Joe talks about steelhead fishing and early season open water trolling. And then Sir Lancelot, Lance Valentine, checks in to talk about probably some Detroit River walleye action and more. And we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK 105.7 FM. You can hear us in, let's go to St. Joe, WSJM 94.9 FM. And then let's travel north to the Yup, to Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Angler Quest headquarters. You can bet that the folks at Linwood Beach are starting to feel it. It's coming. I mean, there's still ice out there on the bay, but they're already at Linwood Beach starting to think about that open water trolling season. They're starting about thinking about getting boats in the water. They're starting to think about getting boats out of storage, getting those boats ready for the water. Linwood Beach is a wonderful facility, great location, great people, outstanding service. I can't say enough about those folks. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That is linwoodbeachmarina.com. And as I mentioned, Linwood Beach, the folks at Linwood Beach work very closely with Angler Quest Pontoons, anglerquestpontoons.com. Mr. Angler Quest, Brad Dupuie, is a guy that I started working with more than 10 years ago now. And I have watched the evolution, the progress, the improvements in that boat. I find it to be a very fascinating story, and it seemed like a good time to check in with Brad and see how things are going. And he has graciously agreed to join us. Brad, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, we're doing great, Mike. Always happy to talk Angler Quest, talk with you, and hopefully talk some open water fishing here, too.
Well, I know you could talk Angler Quest for days. I'm right in there with you, but we're limited to a certain amount of time. But, boy, that open water does sound good, doesn't it, Brad?
Yeah, it sure does. I'm here at Linwood Beach Marina now, and unfortunately, it's ice as far as you can see. But this week, it looks like we're getting some warmer weather, and hopefully we'll start getting rid of some of that ice and get this open water happening.
Brad, tell us the story about Angler Quest, how it came to be.
Yeah, Angler Quest was a concept that I came up with in 2014, working for a different marine manufacturing company, and the very first vessel, kind of a hybrid with a Trax-Tech arch, came on the market about 2014. Through the years, there's been a lot of evolution into striper boats, catfish boats, crappie boats, different designs that are just slight tweaks to the current, as you mentioned earlier, the flagship Pro Troll. And as a result, we saw a lot of growth, and the company changed directions, and I took the opportunity to purchase the brand Angler Quest, and I'm working with a great group of guys manufacturing them currently, and man, they're better than ever, and it's really, really nice to be able to iterate, change, make improvements, keep making the vessel better. I've learned a lot over the last 10, 12 years here, and to be able to put that all into the latest and greatest product is very gratifying. So it's been quite a journey. It's been a great journey, and hey, I get out there and work on this vessel, test it, fish it, and it's a great thing.
It wasn't necessarily an easy task at the beginning in the early days, though, to get people to accept the concept, was it?
It was hard. People just had a hard time understanding how any kind of pontoon boat, could be on the big water. And having a boat right here at Linwood Beach Marina, and for people to go out and test, experience it for themselves was absolutely invaluable. And it was a great, great way to prove the concept. Of course, I talk pontoon. Triple tube is the absolute critical thing when being on the big water. And over the years, I've seen what big water can do to a boat. And as a result, these boats now, the chassis is, in my opinion, the most strongest, most heavy-duty chassis on any triple tube on the market. So I look forward to keeping that ball rolling and making a product better than ever.
Well, I don't want to get ahead of us in our conversation, but you talk about that big triple tube. And now this year, for 2026, you're toying around with something even more, a quad tube dual outboard. Wow, Brad.
It's quite a project, I'll tell you. Most all the dual engine boats out there are off the outside tubes. You hear a lot of structural issues. There's a lot of listing to the stern of the boat, and it's just hard to handle. 1,600 pounds worth of weight back there. Well, here, this is something I've always wanted to do, is put 4 tubes on it. Both the big motors are in the center of the boat in the stern, and I'll tell you, it is a very, very impressive boat. I've got a little bigger tubes on the inside versus the outside, which really, really changed the handling of that boat. And I'll be putting 2 300s on this boat and checking it out on Saginaw Bay. I've got a gentleman who's been running all winter long out in the Gulf of Mexico, and he's running 20 to 25 miles one way. So we've had some great testing to be able to make sure things are on the up and up design-wise and fatigue-wise. And I look forward to it. It's going to be a spectacle. It's going to be a great boat for people to experience and see and ride in as well, Mike.
Twin 300s. Wow. So, Brad, is this basically still a concept boat, or are you looking at this as a production model?
I think it is something we're going to roll into a production model. I don't expect these boats to sell lots and lots of them. However, I have seen incredible interest in the boat. And one thing that people always want to say, it's like, well, boy, I got almost that speed with 1 300. Why 2? Well, you do get more speed. As you know, when it comes to the big water, it's rare that you can open it up and go as fast as you want anyway, because Mother Nature doesn't allow that. But the thing is, with 2 300s, if you put 6-8 people on a triple tube with a 300, you'll see some you'll see some degradation in speed and performance just due to that mass. Well, here with the 4 tubes, the floatability, when you put that amount of people, you do not lose the power and speed like what you would on a triple. So I like it because this has got 4 tubes. You have a significant more amount of flotation with having those 4 tubes, and it floats very, very well. For having 2 big 300s off the back of the boat, it really, really floats well. So I'm looking forward to getting out on the big water and doing some fishing in this vessel.
So do those 2 big 300-horse outboards in the center of the boat, do you find they get in the way when you're fishing, trying to land fish, set lines?
Well, to be honest with you, I haven't experienced it yet. So that is really the goal, is to get out here and use this boat and fish with it. I suspect that it's not going to be an issue at all. Just looking at the boats, the way they've been in the past with a big ski toe in the middle, typically, we're netting off the corners anyway. So
Yeah.
I do not envision a problem there at all. But we're going to find out, because we're going to fish it, we're going to work it, and we're going to see how this big boat dual motor experience is.
That, of course, is a showpiece. I don't want to say it's a one of a kind, but it's designed to get people's attention. I don't see. Well, listen, I hope you make 1,000 of those things. I don't see it happening. You have more popular boats. When you look at your lineup, Brad, what is the single most popular boat you've got on the water today? The model.
Well, I would say that is probably going to be split between the family fish and the pro troll. The family fish, is lacking. It doesn't quite have the content of a big center console with a 12-inch Garmin graph, not the big fiberglass seat with tackle storage and drawers and a 28-gallon live well. So there's less content on that family fish, and as a result, that price is a little lower. And you'll also find that it's a good combination where people are not just looking to fish, but they're also looking to do some pleasure boating, pull tubers, enjoy family time outside of fishing. So that family fish is a very popular one. And like I said, the family fish and Pro Troll are really the two big winners of the product line for sure.
And this year, in fact, I saw this at the Novi show several weeks ago now. You've kind of got a hybrid between those two. The family fish, what is the family fish RA?
Yes, that is the family fish RA. What I find is people routinely want to put a big track stack tower on the family fish. And I do know a gentleman, Sean, who did that, and he said it worked pretty decently. But the one thing about that, when you put an arch in that current setup of a family fish, it's kind of on top of your fishing room, and I think it takes away a little bit of that stern fishing room. So as a result, the Family Fish Pro RA has a radar arch. I've made that binary wall 2 feet longer so that that tower is not on top of your fishing action. And that is a great boat. Arguably, the most stern room fishability of any of them that are created is that Family Fish RA. That is a great boat.
You say you added 2 feet. Does that mean that boat is only available as a 26-footer?
Nope. It's essentially, envision this, a 24 Family Fish RA is really the interior of a 22 Family Fish. So if it was a 26-footer, it would have a 24 Family Fish furniture set. So, no, you can get that in a 24 or 26, and you can even go longer if a person wanted to.
Are you making custom boats at this point?
Absolutely. If somebody wants to do something a little different, I absolutely will do that. For this day and age, there's flexibility, and to be able to modify the boat in a way where we're not going to sacrifice flotation or have issues with flotation or cavitation, as long as it's sensible and not too crazy, I absolutely will do custom stuff.
We're talking with Mr. Angler Quest, Brad Dupuie, about Angler Quest boats, Angler Quest pontoons. The website is anglerquestpontoons.com, and Quest is Quest, anglerquestpontoons.com. Brad is jonesing for open water. I am jonesing for open water. Looking forward to getting out there, including getting out there with Brad. And one of the things we will do this summer is a Wednesday night live on Saginaw Bay. This is one of the most popular Wednesday night lives of the entire year. Now, I'm getting ahead of ourselves because it's going to be a while. But this year, I think we're going to be joined by DNR Fisheries Chief Randy Claremont. He's very excited about going with us. I've taken Randy out before. He said he'd love to fish with Brad. So keep an ear out for that. Keep an eye out for that. We got to take a break. When we come back, a few more topics, a few more questions for Brad, because he is truly one of the most interesting guys I've ever met and one of the best trollers I've ever known. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Tawas, another AM-FM combo, WIOS 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. Right now, talking with a guy that I have much respect for. His name is Brad Dupuie. I have named him Mr. Angler Quest, and it's kind of stuck because he is the guy who came up with the concept of this big triple tube fishing machine that has become so popular on, especially on the Great Lakes. Brad, did you, would you have ever thought? I mean, I've heard stories. I've heard your mother tell stories about when you were a kid fishing, and this is something you have done your entire life. You have loved it. You have been hardcore. You've been very good at it. But could you ever have imagined when you were a kid growing up that you would end up with a boat company like this and spearheading these designs and coming up with a new concept that was so successful? Is that something you could have even dreamed about?
Well, to be honest with you, no. I never had that on my radar. You just never know what the great outdoors can do for you and bring to you personally, So for me, it's very, very rewarding to be able to get people into these boats and for them to experience what I experience, what you experience is really, really cool. You see it in the owners tournament in July. You see all different facets of how people use their Angler Quest, from people partying on it to the family with matching jerseys to the hardcore fishermen trying to win that tournament. It really, really shows the epitome of what the product has to offer and how people use it in different ways. So, it is not something that I really had on my radar and expected, but I'll tell you, going to work every day, dealing with people, getting the opportunity to go on the boats and fish them and show people this concept and product is really rewarding, and it is awesome. It truly is.
Scott Safransky of Linwood Beach, who is was your original dealer and still an Angler Quest dealer, he brought the same thing up at the Angler Quest tournament. He said, "You look around here." He said, "These people here feel like they're part of a family." He said, "You couldn't do this with Lunge. You couldn't even do this with Ranger. There's something about Angler Quest that people just relate to, and they want to be with other Angler Quest owners and be kind of again, I'll use the term, part of the family."
Absolutely a family, and it is a great event, and it is definitely a different culture. You hear it all the time. A person who has a pontoon boat and a fishing boat, a family, they end up selling both those and going to one product that does all, and that's the epitome of Angler Quest, and that's what it's really all about. And one thing I don't talk about enough, and I should talk about it more, is getting kids out and taking kids on these boats to give them the opportunity to move around. It's a very stable platform. I believe it's a better experience for a child, and getting them involved in fishing, I think it's a great, great boat. They're not just stuck in a cockpit of a V-bottom aluminum boat. They have a pontoon boat, one they can roam around, move around. They're contained with the walls. They can lay down, sit down on the furniture. I just think it's a great, great vessel to introduce kids and get them out on the water, and hopefully ingrain in them the importance and the fun of fishing and getting out on the big water.
Absolutely. How is the boating industry in general these days? Is it still pretty tight, Brad?
Yeah, it is definitely pretty tight. It's one of those things where costs keep rising in our environment in the USA. It's something that really keeps happening, and it is a tough market out there. And for me to be able to focus on very specialized product, whether it's a big Angler Quest, whether it's a Pro Troll, a T-top style, or the Leisure Quest, the smaller compact stuff, or a panfish, I think it's very important for me as a company to have versatility and offer some different models that really, pertain to certain markets and certain budgets. So I think it's, it is definitely a tough market, but I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep changing and just make everything better and better and let that product evolve.
Before I let you go, you mentioned, these different markets, these different niches. One of the things you're experimenting with is the smaller, I'm saying really smaller, inland boats that people can get into on the smaller lakes for much less expense than the big water rigs. How are those going, Brad?
Those are actually going very well. You're talking about a boat that, with a 25-horse engine can be in that $20,000 range or a little more or a little less depending on where it's purchased. But I'll tell you, that boat, to be able to offer that in this environment, I think is a very, very good thing. And, it's, kind of the niche-oriented product that is a niche that is something specialized, something that I think is really taken up well. There's some dealers that bought quite a few of them and have sold quite a few already. So it's a great, great boat, and I look forward to people looking to get into them.
Well, Brad Dupuie, keep up the good work. I look at you from the outside, and I think, in some ways your story is, in some ways it's like the American dream. I know it's not easy. I know you've worked hard. But you had a concept, you had an idea, and you turned it into reality, and now you're moving forward to make it even better. So congrats to you, my friend. The website, Angler Quest Pontoons, QUEST, AnglerQuestPontoons.com. Also, we do a monthly Angler Quest podcast. Keep an ear out for that as well. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this opening hour with Ben Nielsen of Showspan talking about the big Grand Rapids show coming up here. Well, now it's just around the corner. Stay tuned. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS, 1320 AM, and you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux, WKNW, 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Truck Trolley. If you've got a truck, and most of us do, many of us do, and you don't have a truck trolley in there yet, my question is, why? They are so easy. They are so convenient. They save your back. No longer do you need an old man hook. You can take them out if you need to access to your entire bed for gravel or mulch or whatever. And I bet, by the way, the website, trucktrolley.com, and I bet that there will be at least one truck trolley at the big Grand Rapids show coming up here in a couple of weeks because Andy Weiss of Truck Trolley has partnered with Andrew Comptis of Outdoor Driven, and at each Showspan show, there is a truck trolley they are giving away. So keep an eye out for that. Speaking of that big Grand Rapids show, I love that show. To me, it is so special because I have been going to a version of that show literally since I was a kid. I used to go there with my dad. I think it was the old Pantland Hotel at the time, downtown. And the show continues. It's bigger. It's better than ever. Ben Nielsen of Showspan knows that firsthand because he's one of the guys responsible for making it happen. Ben, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing just great, and it's hard to... Did the Grand Rapids show sneak up on us early this year, or is it just time is flying?
It does seem like coming up pretty quick. There's no doubt about that. And, it is a little earlier than it has been in the past, but only a couple of days.
Oh, okay.
And one day earlier than last year. So I think the way that the year is gone, it probably does seem like it's working up kind of quick here on us. But I got to agree with you that I love this show. I love them all the same, but I love this one the most. How's that?
Hey, that's fair enough. I feel like it's the granddaddy of all your shows.
It is. It's one of the originals. I mean, we're in our 81st annual Ultimate Sports Show Grand Rapids, which is an incredible, incredible thing. And, I've got those same memories as a kid, and my dad took me to the trout pond and, had to pry me away from it. It was the coolest thing in the world to me at the time. So I definitely have those same feelings.
So what do we see at this show? Is it like an Outdoorama? Is it like an Ultimate Fishing Show Novi, just bigger?
It is, yes. So, this show, Outdoorama's got a little bit more of an outfitter and hunting focus. The fishing show obviously is all fishing. This one is both. We've got hunting and fishing, probably more fishing than hunting. And I think a lot of that is just also the time of the year.
Sure.
A lot of hunters are also thinking about fishing right now because we've been kind of stuck inside for a while. So that spring fishing season is just getting going. And, obviously the hunting side is great too. We've got turkey hunting coming up, and, people are, looking for antlers and putting food plots in and doing all that. So that, there's a hunting side as well, but definitely a strong focus on fishing.
Well, and a beautiful venue, beautiful location, downtown Grand Rapids. You can watch the folks steelhead fishing in the Grand River out the windows. Yet parking is easy. You got a ramp right across the street. I mean, that spot is designed to get people in and out. It's like the perfect venue.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And, there's a lot of parking downtown. And, we've also got a trolley service that runs every 15 minutes from a different parking lot. So there's a lot of parking options for people downtown. As downtown Grand Rapids gets busier and busier, people are always looking for that. And so there's plenty of places to park down there. And we're looking forward to having a really, really busy, great show.
What are the dates on this one, Ben?
Yeah, March 12 to 15. We open up on Thursday. We open up at 1 o'clock. So we go 1 to 8 Thursday. Friday we go noon to 8. Saturday 10 to 8. Sunday 10 to 5. Another note, Thursday is when we do our big food drive with Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger. And so if you bring in 6 non-perishable food items, we'll give you a ticket to the show for free. We've been doing that for a long time now. And, man, we fill a semi-truck full of food every year for this event.
I think that is just absolutely wonderful. I was going to ask you about the success, the impact of it. It sounds like it's making a difference.
There's no doubt about it. Yep. Somebody told me, I'm not sure if it's still the case, but at one point it was the single largest one-day food drive in the state of Michigan. So something definitely that we're very proud of.
That's wonderful. Will there... Well, I know there is. There's not only displays from tackle manufacturers and retailers, but you've also got a pretty good display of boats themselves, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. There'll be a lot of boats there this year. I mean, the boating side of things is going really well. So if we're talking about fishing boats, that's what it's all about, right? And anything from the small 14-foot fishing boat all the way up to the giant high-end walleye and bass boats and some big lake boats, although we can't get the big lake boats in. The little bit smaller ones fit inside of there. And so, we'll have a lot of fishing boats on display there. Tons of tackle this year. We're going to have a lot of fishing tackle at the show. So that's looking really, really good. And Outfitters is doing much better again, too. And that was a little bit tough there for a little while, and that area is really coming back strong. And so we've got some really great Outfitters at the show this year as well. And things are shaping up to have an awesome show.
And if you didn't have seminars, I'd be disappointed.
5 different seminars staged, Mike. So no worry on that. We got plenty of seminars coming up. So whether we're talking about walleye fishing or bass fishing, big lake fishing for salmon and steelhead, maybe we're talking about river fishing, or we're getting into turkey hunting, or all those different topics are covered. And so we've got seminars going on the hour, every hour throughout the whole.
Real quick, before I let you go, website for details.
UltimateSportsShowGR.com. All the details are there.
Ben Nielsen, keep up the good work. I'll look forward to seeing you there. The Grand Rapids show. It's like the granddaddy of them all. Appreciate your time, Ben. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in hour number 2, Tom Simmon and Russ Clark here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. I tell you every week, I think the best way to listen to the show, if you can, is on your local radio station, your local AM or FM station. You got to get your local news, weather, sports, even your local ads. Maybe there's a sale going on you want to take advantage of. But the biggest reason, other than just supporting my radio affiliates, is the fact that I make the content available to our broadcast partners before the podcast version is uploaded. Yeah, there's a podcast. Everybody has a podcast these days. I've been doing podcasting for a long, long time, but kind of as a backup. You know, my primary gig is the radio show, but I do make a podcast of that show available if you need it as a backup. It's the same content as the broadcast version of the show, but it is available someplace other than on your local radio station. Where do you hear it? You can hear it on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's on my Facebook page, and it's on, looking at the list here, probably every podcast platform that's out there. You can probably get the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. I do like podcasting. In fact, Jonathan Den and I here in the studio with me this week, we're just talking about podcasting during the break, and it is a force indeed to be reckoned with. And each month I do podcasts for some of my advertising partners, including Angler Quest Pontoons. If you were with us in hour number 1, you heard Mr. Angler Quest, Brad Dupuie. Killer Food Plots, Rich Grizan will join me on the radio show next week. And Offshore Tackle. And when we are done here in the studio recording this week's radio show, we will record this month's Offshore Tackle podcast. So keep an ear out for those. I would certainly appreciate it. My first guest this hour is a guy who I first met when he was at Jay's Sporting Goods. His name is Tom Simmon. And I think I met Tom because I was looking at gun safes. I think maybe I bought a gun safe from Tom. Since then, Tom has gone on to leave Jay's. He still works very closely with Jay's, but he has built up the single biggest air gun shop in the state, high-performance air gun shop. It's called High Pressure Pneumatics. It's Michigan's premier air gun shop. His website is myhighpressureair.com, myhighpressureair.com. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk a little bit more about this concept and maybe why we might want to get involved. Tom, welcome back to the show. How have you been?
Thank you, Mike. Been doing pretty good. Thank you for asking.
Oh, listen, it is a pleasure to talk with you again. I'm trying to think of how many years ago it was that I first ran into you at Jay's. It's been a while now, hasn't it?
Yeah, I started there in the fall of '93, and I think I first met you that fall or that spring of '94. Then started dealing with you when you're looking for safes after that. So,
and how did you make the jump over into air guns with your own company?
Well, I was a buyer at Jay's in the firearm department. I did their air guns, wrapped my head around the PCP things, and realized that Jay should be part of that. Got them involved. I started out as a fill station. I sold compressors, tanks, fittings, did the fills and stuff like that. Set Jay's up so they could do some fills. My name started getting out there, and I started growing on my side. Then with the blessing of Jay's, I started dealing with the higher-end air guns, and it just grew to a point where I could not do both jobs. It was unfair to Jay's. I wasn't performing the way I probably should have as I did, so I just made the decision to go out on my own.
Well, congrats on that. I think whenever anybody has a concept, a desire, a goal, and they take it to the point where they can leave who they're working with and start their own company, I consider that a success. I know it's not easy. I know it's not always an easy thing to do, but good for you.
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, great relationship with the Pollitt family. Still have a good relationship with them. It was a hard decision. It took me a year to make that decision that it was time for me to move on. So.
Yeah. You mentioned PCP. What is that?
Pre-charged pneumatics.
Pre-charged pneumatic. Help me figure out what that means, Tom.
So basically, these guns have an air reservoir on them, whether it's a tube or a bottle that will fill anywhere from, say, 200 bar to 310 bar, which is a European standard of measurement. So you're looking anywhere from about 1,700 PSI to 4,500 PSI storage. And that's what is used to project your pellet or your slug, is that high pressure air. Then
what size projectiles are you shooting out of these guns?
For what I've dealt with, anywhere from 177 up to 72 caliber.
177. That's a common air gun pellet. We all know what that is.
Yep, that's a common one we had in our guns when we were kids, whether they're CO2, break barrel, the old pump masters, stuff like that. So that's still a viable caliber. So it's 77, 22, 25, 30, 35. There's a couple 40 calibers out there. 45 caliber, 50 cal, right on up. I'll go for a 72 cal, and there's a couple calibers bigger yet. So,
wow, that's crazy, Tom.
That's why it took so long for me to get my head wrapped around it to a certain degree. It's just understanding how it works, and then why would you want to get into this? And when it kind of clicked in my head, it's like, oh yeah, this has been big overseas, over in Europe and everything, because of their gun restrictions. So air guns has been huge over there, and has been big here, except for it's probably a little bit more underground. And in my opinion, it was COVID when everybody was locked down and everybody was watching YouTube that a lot of this got exposed, and that really started to grow. And now with YouTube and other influencers and stuff out there, it's just getting out there more and more. So
why would we, as Michigan shooters and traditional gun owners, why would we want to look at these high-performance air guns?
Well, it's a different experience. So it's something different that's not just your everyday, stuff. Very, very, and your smaller bores, there's virtually no recoil. You watch everything happen in scope. They're very quiet. So squirrel hunters, rabbit hunters and stuff, you're getting multiple kill shots because they're not running after they hear that first bang from a 22 or a shotgun. When you get your bigger bores, they are more of a push than a recoil. Again, it's a different challenge because with a bow, you generally want to be, 40 yards and under for your deer. Rifles, you can reach out to 300 yards. With these air guns, you're anywhere from that 15 yards out to 150. I know a couple guys that have taken a couple 100-yard shots with their big bores, but they knew what they were doing because this is more like our old, kind of more like our old black powders, that type of trajectory. You have a good arch to it, so you just got to know your shot placement, your aim point, such like that, but they're capable of it.
So you can hunt with these. They're not just for target practice.
No, I've got a lot of hunters. So, I mean, anywhere from the small game hunter, coyote hunters, right on up to deer, bear. I've got a guy taking his out west this coming fall when he goes out for a hunt. So,
you got people who hunt Michigan whitetails with your air guns?
Yes. Yep. And one of my guys is going to join me on the podcast today, Jeremy. He does a lot of deer hunting with his, and he's taken a couple coyotes, few deer, quite a few handful of deer. So, and I've got a bunch of other local customers, deer, bear. One of my guys is 7 miles down the road, took his bear with his Texan. So,
wow. So listen, I didn't know you had a podcast. Tell me about your podcast. Is this something you're doing?
Oh, no, I don't have a podcast. I have a YouTube channel.
YouTube, okay.
Yep. So High Pressure Pneumatics. I got YouTube, and I do monthly or weekly updates of what's coming in, what's going on, type thing. Then we do a lot of trying to get more into showcasing the product we have, showing it in action. So,
I'm pulling you up right now. I want to see this. Oh, this is really cool. Very cool. I'll tell you one thing, and I've noticed this for quite a while now, Tom, is you are very good at using social media and using these different venues to reach out to your clients.
Yes. Yeah, it's got to. As much as some of us, especially my generation, kind of despise social media, it's the modern advertising. And without it, your name just doesn't get out there very well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's not forget radio shows. Let's not forget the advertising on the radio shows. I mean, right. That's not a bad option either.
No, not at all. Actually, your show always does pretty well for us. For the next couple of weeks after your radio show, we get phone calls, people stopping in, checking us out. So
I'm good. I'm glad to hear that. Tom, we got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. We're talking with Tom Simmon of High Pressure Pneumatics. His website is myhighpressureair.com, myhighpressureair.com. I'm on his YouTube channel right now. I would encourage you, if you're even remotely interested in this, or just, if you like to learn about different things, go to his YouTube channel. It's very, very cool. You'll get to see what Tom looks like. It's always nice to put a face to the voice you hear on the radio show. But I've been right on the verge in the past of, pun intended, pulling the trigger on getting one of the smaller air guns. I've got the 177s and stuff that I use for critter control in the backyard. But to take it to the next level, now that would be interesting. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, more with Tom Simmon of High Pressure Pneumatics. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM. And then north of the bridge in Escanaba on WCHT 600 AM 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by... Okay, I'll just move on because you know exactly what that is. That's the sound of my Rapid River knife locking back open. I just pulled it out of my pocket. It's there all the time. Do you have any tool that you use as much as a knife? I don't. You got a lot of tools, hunting tools, fishing tools, working tools, like drills and saws and stuff. But for a day-to-day tool that I use almost every day, and I take comfort knowing it's accessible when I need it, is my knife. And for me, it's a Rapid River knife. I would encourage you to check out the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. That's rapidriverknifeworks.com. Or, better yet, if you get a chance, go to the showroom on US 2 in the Yup, just east of Rapid River. You walk in the door at that showroom, and you're going to be absolutely amazed. So make sure you check it out again, rapidriverknifeworks.com, rapidriverknifeworks.com. We're talking right now with Tom Simmon of High Pressure Pneumatics. His website, myhighpressureair.com, myhighpressureair.com. Tom, the folks who come to you these days, are they people who have traditional guns, or have they slid into the air gun world and that's where they're going to stay?
It's both. We get a lot of them that are new to air guns, that are big into their rifles, pistols, firearms in general, and trying to see what this is all about. We've got guns here between our personal guns and guns on the rack that we can let them, shoot real quick so they can figure out how accurate these are, just what it is. It's hard to explain. I can explain it till I'm blue in the face, but until you pull the trigger, you just don't get it.
And you do have a range right there. You do have a range right there, don't you?
We have a range where we can test the guns out, let people know. We don't rent it out for people to shoot at or anything like that, but for us to use to help set customers up, test our guns and such, yes.
You talked about the accuracy of these guns. Well, how accurate are they?
They are, at 100 yards, a lot of these can be every bit as accurate, if not more accurate, than any rifle out there. We're talking if you can read the wind right, because the pellet guns are more sensitive to the wind, the pellets are, or slugs. But at 100 yards on a really good day with the right shooter, a pinky nail, you can put 3, 4, 5 shots down there.
Wow. And I know
bench rest competition and NLR 22 and PRS type competitions, air guns are getting much larger exposure in those now also. So,
are there fewer regulations on an air gun? Do we have to go through a background check like we do with a regular gun?
No background check, and there is also, if you want them quieter, there are moderators that are air gun only, so no federal stamp required on those. It's just over the counter.
I was going to ask you about that. I was just looking at your website, and I saw this thing that's called a moderator, and I thought, that looks like a can. That looks like a suppressor. Is that basically what it is?
Yes. We just try to separate in the air gun community because it quiets them down, but it's not like you expect on a firearm, and these will not work on a firearm. Threaded different, and they won't take the pressures. So they're air gun use only, but they'll quiet your air gun down if you want it quieter than what it comes from the factory.
But they're pretty quiet to begin with?
Yes. Most of these are backyard friendly. So if you're in more of a suburb area with neighbors and you're planking in the backyard, most time they're not hearing you. They don't even know what you're doing back there. And if you want it quieter, then an aftermarket moderator will quiet it down more. There's guys that shoot in their basement and their spouse upstairs doesn't even know they're shooting because you can't hear them.
Yeah.
They're extremely quiet.
All right, so I'm trying to figure out what's the downside of this, and I'm not seeing it right now.
I guess if there was a downside, you get a little bit of sticker shock when you first come into the air guns. Because air guns can be expensive. I mean, I've got them starting right around $250, and we go all the way up to $4,000. But when you get in, you got the gun, then you have an air source to fill the gun, whether that be a bulk tank, a compressor, hand pump. So the first initial buy to get in is like, ooh, man, that's a little expensive. But then once you're in, it's a cost of tin of pellets. And then 22, you can get 500 count tins of pellet on the higher ends I carry for $18, $19.
Yeah, so once
readily available.
So once you get in, the cost is minimal.
Extremely inexpensive, yes. There ain't too many things out there. You can go shoot a tin, say, average tin of pellets is $20. So what else can you shoot for 500 rounds for $20?
Nothing. Not a thing.
and that the whole family can enjoy. I mean, to a young child, to grandma and grandpa, because they don't have the recoil. They don't have that loud noise. That's more pleasurable to shoot for a lot of people.
I have in my back room a break action 177 caliber pellet rifle that I use for critter control, and I'm quite impressed with the performance of that thing. Are your high pressure guns going to be even better than that?
They will generally be quieter than most break barrels. Break barrels can be a little bit on the loud side.
This is a little bit loud. Yep, it is.
Yep, they'll be quieter, less felt recoil because the springers, even with gas pistons, will have a little bit of a felt recoil. And most generally, they will be more accurate.
Oh. And how many shots?
Not saying, no, I got a lot of guys who can shoot some springers pretty darn good when they really get them dialed in, but most generally, the pre-charged pneumatics are going to be more accurate.
So that break barrel one I have, that's actually spring propelled?
Depending on what you got, it's either a spring or a gas piston. The gas piston would be similar to like our trunk lid pistons on our vehicle, that style.
Okay.
So those tend to be a little quieter internally. Sometimes not as much felt recoil as the heavy springs, but work on the same principle.
So what's the most popular caliber that goes out your door?
Right now, it is probably the 30 cal, and a lot of that is because of the target shooters. That has been winning a lot of competitions because it does a little better in the wind than 22 does. Packs a lot of power for the guys critter hunting, but I'm a little bit more of a 25 caliber guy for an all-around target, pesting, varmint. So,
how many shots will I get out of that the can that's on the gun before I have to recharge it?
It will depend on the size of the bottle or tube. So on the low side of some of these, you're going to be somewhere around 20 shots. And there's a lot of these, we're going to be upwards of 100 and plus. It's all kind of like air source. We've got the pressure it fills to, the volume it's there, and where you have it set at for power. It'd be like our old style cars going from a 2-barrel to a 4-barrel. If you're already going to use a little bit more fuel, but if you put that foot to it, it's going to take more. So if you hop these up, it's going to take more air. So there's a lot of variables into shot count. Okay,
so I want to talk more about these variables. The variables are how much you charge up the onboard tube or container or whatever.
Right.
Then you can also dial in the gun with how much power you want to shoot it with.
Some of these guns are adjustable on their power using a regulator, which regulates the amount of air that goes in behind that projectile every time you pull the trigger, and that's what keeps them super consistent. So you can turn the regulator up high, boost the hammer spring up so you get more power, more speed, or you can turn them down on a lot of these models. So, and then you're looking at, tubes with an air capacity of 180 cc's versus a bottle that's 300 cc, 580 cc, 700 cc. So the air volume and air pressure you're using also will dictate shot count.
So what are folks using that big 72 caliber gun for?
Mainly hunting, deer, bear, whatever. I've got a couple guys that bought them because they thought it was fun to have a big bore and just target shoot with them and plank and show off to their buddies. But most of the big bore stuff is for hunting.
And what do you need to be legal to whitetail hunt in Michigan with an air gun? And is it legal? Obviously, it is legal, right?
It is legal, and it's a little gray. And I talked to a DNR law enforcement official. There's a special unit down in southern Michigan. I can't remember what unit that is. That they do dictate it has to be 35 cal or larger. The rest of the state, the way he made it sound, it was 22 cal and larger. And to me, 22, 25, 30 barely is not ethical for deer hunting in my book. So I still like to tell guys 35 or larger, just so we know we got the energy and we're taking our game ethically. Again, that's my opinion.
Well, and I appreciate that. And I am an avid bear hunter. I love bear hunting. I love bear hunting over bait. I love being up close and personal. I'm thinking, for me, that's a perfect scenario for bow hunting because you know where the animal's coming and you're close. But it might also be a wonderful setup for one of these high-pressure air guns too, right?
Yes. Yep.
What's
well within range? You've got plenty of power. They're quieter, even though for an air gun they're loud. Against the firearm, you're not doing the speeds and the high power of 30-06, 7 mag, 300 Win mag, so you're not getting that crack, and you're not getting that loud echoing through the woods when you do shoot your game.
It's basically a one-shot gun, though, right? Because after you shoot, you got to reload.
Yeah, most of these big bores, one of the most popular ones is the Air Force Texans. They're built here in the States in Texas. They are a single-shot platform, but you can get, depending on the caliber and what you're set at, 3 to 5 good powered shots out of it.
Where do we find you? I mean, physically, in person, Tom. Where are you located?
I am 4 miles west of Harrison on M61.
And again, the website is myhighpressureair.com, myhighpressureair.com. Is this
if we're not open, you really don't know we're here except for our sign out by the road because I built this within my pole barn. So it's pretty nondescript looking until my big doors are opened up and you see the storefront. So,
is this a slow time of year for you right now, probably?
The month is pretty consistent. I don't have the big drops and big highs like I did when I worked at Jay's. You hit August, everybody's thinking deer, and we're busy, and it goes like gangbusters. Then the winter and summer we're a little slower. Here it stays pretty consistent because you can.
Excellent. All right, Tom. Tom Simmon of High Pressure Pneumatics. Again, the website myhighpressureair.com, myhighpressureair.com. Just one more option for folks like us who love the outdoors, hunting, fishing, shooting, and trapping. One more option of shooting, myhighpressureair.com. We'll take a break. Russ Clark after the break. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us, let's go to Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Versa Skins. Why buy a bunch of different sets of expensive hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set? Snap on, zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern. You can do this in less than a minute. If you need big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, Versa Skins is for you. And if you are a saddle hunter, Versa Skins makes jackets specifically for saddle hunters. Check them out online at versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. Or go to amazon.com and do a search for Versa Skins brand. Versa Skins, just change your skin for the season you're in. Right now, the season we're in is some great late winter, springtime fishing, especially down in the southern part of the state. Russ Clark of Seahawk Charters is on the water right now. Russ, good morning, buddy. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing real good. You know, the other day I was going through some old video, and I found a day when we were out on Lake Michigan with Mark Romanak. Mark was in the boat, in your boat. I was in your boat, and we were out doing some kind of a PR thing. But, boy, that went back a few years.
Oh, I did. I was a lot skinnier, had more hair, and was a little more agile in those days.
Hey, we all were, Russ.
Right.
So, you're not on the big water yet, are you?
Nope, I'm not. Still a little early. There's still some floating ice out there. It's not quite kicked in yet. So we're on the river right now.
Jason Steelhead, I assume?
We are. And we've had pretty good action this morning. A little difficulty getting them in. We've had 11 bites and voted 4, but we're going to try to turn that around here, hopefully.
11 bites. That's a pretty good day, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not bad. It was a real good morning bite, kind of that full moon deal, and then we went through a little bit of a slow period, and then we just hit one here just lately. But unfortunately, he come off.
Well, 4 for 11, I mean, that's not unheard of in the river, right? For people who don't understand what you're doing, there's a lot of things working against you in the river to bring a fish to the boat.
That is true, and, you know, we're plug fishing right now, so sometimes it can work that way. So, but, and then you'll have the day where they almost all stay on. You just never know day to day.
Why?
I'm not blaming the fish. I'm not blaming the clients.
Never.
These guys been fishing with me for a long time, so they know the game.
Yeah, they were probably looking at you out of the side of your eyes saying, what is he going to say next here?
Oh, they were.
So why is it that with plug fishing, sometimes they don't hook up as well?
You know, I don't know. It's just sometimes they just hit it real hard and then just let it go, you know. And then sometimes I think they're just becoming territorial and don't just truly get the hook in them real good.
Is the river just full of fresh fish right now?
It's been good fishing this year. Yep. And it's actually been real pleased with the fishing. The river's not super high and it's not dirty. But actually, we could use some, water, some rain, because we fought real low water, down by the harbor last year, getting our lake boats out. And it's kind of starting out this year again. And we had a lot of snow here, but it hadn't seemed to bring the river up that much.
Isn't that amazing that we can lose as much water as we sometimes do in a year? I mean, and I'm not being conspiratorial here, but you got to wonder, where does it go? I mean, that's a lot of water.
I know, and it seems like the last couple of years here in the, southern Michigan area, we've had really dry falls. Beautiful, sunny every day, but just didn't get the fall rains like we normally do.
Are you in the lower stretch of the river down by town, or are you up by the dam?
No, I'm up by Berrien Springs, the upper stretches.
Is that your preferred water up there?
I'm pretty mobile, so I try to go wherever it takes, both upriver and down. But this time of year, fish tend to start migrating more to stronger current and the gravel, that type of thing. They're not really, haven't caught any fish spawned out or anything, but they're, they like to get in those kind of areas.
The only stretches of the St. Joe I have fished are right there in town, which is kind of a cool fishery because you're right there in the heart of things, and people are driving by and you're catching fish. But I imagine that's a whole different experience than being upstream.
It is. It's as you get up further, it's a little stronger current, faster current, and no problem getting around now. But when the river's low, you definitely got to be careful up here, because you can hit bottom and there's a lot of rock and gravel, so the prop manufacturers can like you.
No jet sled for you then?
No, I still old school prop, but there is a lot of boats with jets.
Well, you said rock and gravel. I mean, That's a steelheader's dream, isn't it?
It is absolutely, for sure.
Hold on, Russ. Hold on. We're talking to Captain Russ Clark of Seahawk Charters out of St. Joe, Michigan. His website is fishseahawk.com, fishseahawk.com. I got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to do the Ask Avery segment this week. And this is from a listener who wants to get into steelhead fishing, and he's heard about, me and others talk about the different types of techniques and tactics for targeting late winter, early spring steelheads. We're going to talk with Captain Russ Clark about those different options and why you might choose one or the other. That's coming up after the break. And then at the top of the hour, we're going to check in with Sir Lancelot, Lance Valentine, and of course we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. Still coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us over in the Thumb in Sandusky on WMIC 600 AM 95.3 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoors men and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way this segment works is this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. The best way to get your questions to me is to send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It can be a question you want me to answer directly or something that you want me to pass along to an expert. Not me, because I'm not an expert. Pass along to an expert. Robert Anderson, I think I know Robert. I think he goes by Bob. Says, hey, Mike, I want to get started steelhead fishing. I have a boat and some gear, but I'm not quite sure what next. I hear about pulling plugs, drifting spawn, casting, etc. What's the difference, and when should I use the different options? Well, as long as we've got Captain Russ Clark of Seahawk Charters, fishseahawk.com, on the line right now, it seemed like a good time to get this question answered. So, Russ, I'll give you the question again. Bob Anderson says he wants to get started steelheading. He's talking about pulling plugs, drifting spawn, casting. What's the difference, and when would he use those different options? Can you help him out?
Well, I think one thing I'd probably say, Mike, just to jumpstart a guy just getting started, really would be the best way would be hire a guide. And I'd say most guides would be more than happy to talk about techniques and, different areas, times, and all that. And you just could really learn a lot very fast by doing that. And then the other thing, no matter what technique you use, it's about what you have confidence in. Plugs and work, back drift and spawn bags is very popular, kind of a controlled drift. They call it like spawn dogging or different names for it. That's very effective. The old traditional chunk spawn works very well at times too. I would say the clearer the water, the shallower, the more you should downsize. Bobber fishing with spawn bags, there's a lot of different techniques, and every river has their own way of doing things that work better than, every river can be a little different.
Drift and spawn, if you're not using a bobber, just bouncing them off the bottom, that's kind of a higher end technique. I mean, it takes a little more time to get a feel for that one, doesn't it?
It does, you're kind of back drifting spawn back, so it's like anything else, the more you do it, the better you'll get at it.
I agree with you completely, though, Russ. I don't care if it's river steelhead, big lake fishing, walleye. If you want to get started and learn, go out with somebody who does it every day. Book a trip with a captain.
Yep, I totally agree. And, they'll help you out, whether it be, on a St. Joe or the northern rivers or wherever they might want. Most guides would be more than happy to help you get started.
Now, you guys down there in St. Joe are usually the first ones on the big water. How long before you think you're going to get out there, Russ?
It won't be long. When we first start out, we start out in our river boats before we get our lake boats going. So I would suspect it could be, week, 10 days. We're supposed to get a little bit of a warm up and a rain. So it won't be long, and all that fishery is done right next to shore. So, as far as it's being calm, that's something that can be done in a small boat, and you don't need downriggers or anything like that. It's all surface fishing with, the planer boards and flat lines and just all running plugs, bright colored plugs at that time.
Down there, are you guys targeting, is it strictly coho you're after? Do you get any browns that far south?
We get some browns, but not a lot. But we do get some, but it is, majority is coho, and you'll get a stray steelhead and even a king early in the season sometimes.
Man, those coho springtime can be suicidal, aren't they?
They are. When it's on, it can be really fast action.
And they're not big fish, but they sure are good eating.
No, very. The meat's pure red, so they are excellent.
How's your springtime looking, Russ? You got openings? Can people book a trip with you?
I do. One of the more popular months because of the kinks is May, but April, May are both very popular. June, and I will say last year was a tremendous year fishing on the lake. It was, it was really an exceptional year.
I'd love to hear that. I absolutely love to hear that. Well, Cap, good fishing to you. I appreciate your time. We're going to let you get on with your day, and hopefully you can you bang some more steelhead, and you and I will talk again soon.
Okay, thanks, Mike. You take care.
You as well. Russ Clark, Captain Russ Clark of Seahawk Charters. His website is fishseahawk.com. That's fishseahawk.com. He's in the river right now, the St. Joe River, after steelhead. But pretty soon he's going to be out there in the big lake, and in a week or two, when those guys get on the big water, I'm going to check in with Russ or one of the other Southern Lake Michigan captains to talk more about this early season trolling. They're out there on the open water while folks in the North Country are still on the ice. How cool is that? Fishseahawk.com is the website. Fishseahawk.com. When we come back after the top of the hour, continue on the springtime fishing theme with Sir Lance Valentine of the Walleye Zone, theWalleyeZone.com, and then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. This show is called Outdoor Magazine Radio. There's also a podcast version of. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and my email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. So I must be Mike Avery. Yes, I am Mike Avery. More coming up after the break.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction. Welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. All right, if you've been along with us for the last few weeks now, you know that I have readily admitted that I'm jonesing for springtime. I really am. And I know that's not fair to our friends, to our listeners in the northern part of the state, especially the UP, because it's not springtime yet. I get that. And it's going to be a while before it's springtime. Yep, I understand that. I acknowledge that. But I personally am pretty excited about getting out on open water fishing. I never made it out on the ice this year, ice fishing, which is not a surprise. I really didn't think I would, and I didn't. And there are still a lot of my friends out there, even on Saginaw Bay, they're still out there hanging on to the remnants of the ice. And, I get it. If ice fishing is your thing, it is your passion, you want to make the absolute most of it that you can. For me, I just soon be on open water. We just talked with Captain Russ Clark of Seahawk Charters at the end of the second hour. I'm thinking about open water fisheries that open up early in the season. Well, of course, it's the rivers for steelhead. Southern Lake Michigan is not too far from being ice-free, so you can get out there trolling. But the Detroit River, you got to take a look at the Detroit River. Is there a better walleye fishery anywhere in the world? Man, I really don't know. Each spring, thousands and thousands of anglers head to the Detroit River to try their luck for big walleye. Captain Lance Valentine of the Walleye Zone is one of those folks who's down there. I refer to him as Sir Lance-a-Lot, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Lance, welcome back, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing great, Mikey. How are you?
I'm good. Can I just tell you, Lance, listen, I love all my guests on the show. I am blessed to have a good stable of friends that I talk with who are absolute experts. But I got to tell you, you are one of my favorite people to talk with because every time I talk to you, I learn something, and your passion and your insight and your knowledge is just so very impressive.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Thank you very. I do. I really do. But the way you got to this spot now, I mean, you've put a lot of years in, and you are very detail oriented. This isn't something that fell in your lap. You have worked hard to get where you're at. I like to think so. We're going on 30 years, and back in the old days, wherever I had to go, I went. I went to a lot of shows that I wasn't doing anything at, just to make sure that people knew who I was, and I stayed in touch with people. We'd get in the car and drive 100 miles one way, do a seminar for $50, and drive 100 miles home just to kind of get the word out. And for all those years, we did Gander Mountain seminars for 14 weeks in a row, 4 nights a week. We were on the road and been all over the Midwest doing seminars and fishing shows. And I like to think that this is a result of a lot of hard work, and I hope doing it right. And more than that, I hope people realizing that my passion honestly is helping them catch more fish. Do we make a living at it? Sure. Do we sell some products? Sure. Do we charge for some of our content? Absolutely, we do. But the main purpose of what we do is always focused on how can we help somebody catch more fish. And I think everything we do, I try to keep that at the forefront, and just keep trying to get better and better, and just keep providing information that helps people catch more fish. That's what we love to do.
Do you wish you had a venue these days like a Gander Mountain that you could go to on a weekly basis, or has your online presence replaced that these days?
It's so funny you say that. I just got done doing a full day Saturday over at DNR Sports in Kalamazoo, and we had about 150 people there. And nothing replaces doing a seminar, if you will, in front of a live audience, right? You get to see the light bulbs go on. You kind of can adjust by what you're teaching. When you stand in front of a camera, and I have a tendency to, me, talk a little bit. So
when did that start?
When did that start, right? Those little off ramps and those little, are okay when you're live. They're not okay on camera. So I have had to learn to really tighten up what I say. As my friend says, just the facts. He tells me 2 things, and I have these posted up in my studio room: just the facts and just stop talking. It's kind of hard on video to tell a story that relates to what you just taught, because you can't see people react to it. So I do miss, I would love to go back to 100% live. That's never going to happen. So we mix some live stuff in to drive people back to our online content. So I'm getting better at being in front of a camera. It's a different skill set, believe it or not. Talking in front of a camera is a different skill set than talking in front of 150 people live.
Oh yeah.
So we're getting better at it. Like anything else, you learn as you go. And I enjoy both of it, because every time we do it, we're reaching. The beauty about digital is I reach more people. 150 people come to a seminar with something digital, I can reach 10, 11, 10 times that, 100 times that, 1,000 times that. So they're different. I enjoy both, but man, there's nothing beats the thrill of standing in front of a crowd and actually seeing them learn.
When will you head down to the Detroit River?
So I am going to head down probably the 23rd or 24th. We start fishing on the 26th. And on the Walleye Zone, we will have our live nightly Detroit River reports. Our live reports start on March 26th. So every night starting on March 26th from 9 o'clock to about 9:20, 9:25, we do a live fishing report every night from the Detroit River. Tell you, where we caught them, where we didn't catch them, what the weather's doing, what the fish are doing. A full report, not just a report me and Joe went fishing, here's where we caught them, but a report in context of what the river is doing, how it's going to be the next couple of days, the wind conditions, the water conditions, the weather conditions, the fish conditions, kind of where they are and what we call the Detroit River timeline as they move through this rhythm of the spring. Where are they on that timeline, so we kind of know where they're going next. So full report on the Walleye Zone every night starting March 26th all the way through Memorial Day. So once March 26th gets here, buddy, it's full go.
Well, and it's a grind. You talked about your time down there on the river, and I'm thinking how this fishery and the fishing changes over that time. I mean, there's a point early on where sometimes you can target big fish, sometimes you can target lots of fish. Talk to me about this process, and it's like a 6-week process, isn't it, or longer even?
Yeah. So So the time I'm there, late March until Memorial Day, we go through probably 6 or 7 attitudes, if you will, of walleyes, right? Kind of, we call it a timeline and kind of where they are in that timeline. And, you go from really stingy fish that are holding in deep water that are full of eggs and just don't want to bite to walleyes that are starting to move up and get a little more aggressive, and you can catch them on mid-depth flats as they start to move up. And then you get this little pre-spawn push where you can catch big fish up shallow before they spawn, and then you get the spawn, and then you get this post-spawn deal where fish rest for a day or two, and then they get really, really aggressive, and you catch a bunch of post-spawn females that are long but skinny, and you kind of got to figure out how they're moving up and down, and where do they hold in pre-spawn, what migration routes are they using to come in from St. Clair and in from Lake Erie, where are they stopping on those migration routes to spend a day or two and rest, then how do they use those migration routes a little bit differently to go back to the lake as they slide up on the top of a drop-off to go back as opposed to the bottom of the drop-off to come in. When do they slide up on flats and become really aggressive and really start to eat? All of those things. So there's a lot of, as I tell you all the time, fishing's not hard, but it is complicated. So there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. And some days you may go out and go, okay, I got a couple guys. We just want to target big fish. And you're like, yeah, the big fish bite just ain't going to happen today, guys. What do you want to do? Do you want to just keep grinding on it and maybe get one bite, or do you want to go, catch some eater fish? So there's all these things going on, and then you throw in the wind, you throw in the waves, you throw in the weather, you throw in water color. The water, your good water, you have it for 2 days, and all of a sudden it gets dirty or it gets too clean. So there's lots of things going through your head when you're down there fishing on getting on not just the right spot, but getting on the right fish that want to bite when you're there. So there's a whole deal, and it goes through, like I said, as it changes, it's about 7 different pieces of that puzzle that change from late March until late May, and you just got to kind of stay on top of it.
How does that fishery compare to, say, 10 years ago, a decade ago? Are you still seeing the same number of big, true trophy fish that you used to, or is it evolving in some ways?
Well, I think we got to be careful. We're seeing less big fish, and definitely seeing less high double-digit big fish. 12, 13, 14, 15. Seeing a lot less of those. And I think you got to step back and just go, well, it's not because the Detroit River is getting bad. Everything has changed on Lake Erie. The population has changed. The distribution of the size of fish has changed. We don't have that many 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-pound fish left on Lake Erie anymore because we're in this cycle where we have a lot of fish. And you can't have 7, 8, 9 years in a row like we have on Lake Erie of these massive hatches. Those situations, that many good years in a row of hatches, don't create a big fish population.
Hang tight, Lance. Hang tight. We'll follow up on that after the break. I wasn't paying as close attention to my clock as I should have. So we'll take a break. We're talking with Lance Valentine of the Walleye Zone, thewalleyezone.com. When we come back, we'll talk about big fish. Is it okay to keep big fish out of the Detroit River in the springtime? And lots more right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Muskegon on WKBZ. That's 1090 AM. And you can hear us in Traverse City, WTCM 580 AM. The segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based, family-owned Killer Food Plots. Boy, we're not that far now from spring food plot planting season, at least in the southern part of the state. In fact, I actually saw a post the other day of somebody out doing some frost seeding already. Next week here on the show, we're going to have Rich Krzan of Killer Food Plots join us to talk about this whole spring food plot planting season. If you are into food plots, I would recommend you take a serious look at Killer Food Plots. I like Michigan-based family-owned companies. Killer Food Plots is one of those. Check out their website, killerfoodplots.com, killerfoodplots.com, and each month we do a Killer Food Plots podcast, so keep an ear out for that, killerfoodplots.com. Talking right now with Lance Valentine of the Walleye Zone, thewalleyezone.com, thewalleyezone.com. Lance, before the break, I was asking you about the concept of big fish in the Detroit River springtime fishery. Are we seeing as many? And is it okay to keep a few of those? Because every year people come unglued when they see somebody take a big fish.
Well, let's step back and talk about the number of big fish in the Detroit River first. And the answer is no. We're not seeing as many big fish in the Detroit River as we have in years, and that has everything to do with Lake Erie, right?
Is it from people over harvesting and taking too many fish?
Oh my goodness gracious, no. So one of my good friends is Travis Hartman, who runs the perch and walleye fishery down there for the Ohio DNR in the Western Basin, and I talk to him every year, and I make this post every year, and it's probably going to have to be earlier this year than it has been all these other years. And the comment is really simple that Travis makes, right? Lake Erie does not have an egg problem. There's not an issue with the amount of eggs that Lake Erie produces. So killing a pre-spawn fish, even a pre-spawn female, is going to do zero right now to affect Lake Erie, Detroit River walleye populations. It's not going to hurt anything at all. There's enough eggs to do that. And actually, we've had near record hatches, 5 or 6 of the last 10 years on Lake Erie. So if you catch a fish full of eggs, absolutely 100% on Lake Erie, Detroit River, go ahead, harvest that fish if you'd like to. If you want to let it go, let it go. But please don't start dogging on people. This is not a 500-acre inland lake in northern Iowa. That's not what this is. This is the Great Lakes. This is Lake Erie and Detroit River. There are almost 100,000 legal walleyes in Lake Erie. There are a huge number of big fish. And actually, the problem with big fish, both in Erie and Detroit, is we have too many fish in the system. When you have multiple years in a row where you have great hatches, what grows big walleyes is you have 1 or 2 really, really good hatches, and then you have 3 or 4 years of down hatches. So now, you got to remember, as walleyes grow, as they move through this process of getting big, they go through 6 or 7 different phases, and they eat something different at each phase. Well, if there's always walleyes in that same phase with you, the more walleyes there are, the less food there is for you to kind of move to grow fat and go on to that next stage. So when we get 1 or 2 years of really, really good hatches, and then we get 3 or 4 years of down hatches, that lets those 1 or 2 good hatch years have a little window where they are the only ones that are taking care of or eating a specific type of bait that lets them grow. That's how we get these big, huge numbers of big fish. We haven't had that because of the way the hatches have laid out. So we still have enough fish. We do not have an egg problem in Lake Erie at all. The minute we do, I'll be the first one to tell everybody, start putting some fish back. But right now, no matter what you catch, no matter how big it is, if it's legal, if you want to take it home, take it home.
You used a number for the Lake Erie walleye population. I want to make sure I heard you correctly. What's that number?
It's up around 100 million.
Okay.
It's probably not quite.
I thought I heard you say 100,000. So I just I either misheard you or you misspoke, but I wanted to make sure we clarify that, Lance.
Yes, it's up that number. I think the number was. I think they're testing. They're netting this year. They're figuring they're modeling is somewhere between 87 and 90, and now you add in some air for that. So I'm going to call 100 million.
Fair enough.
It's a lot.
And the thing about that river is they come from the south and they come from the north because they come out of St. Clair and Lake Erie, right?
Yeah, I don't think people realize how many fish come from St. Clair, and they're different. And And this is something we cover in detail on the Walleye Zone in some of our Detroit River seminars. The fish that come from St. Clair are a different size, both on the small end and the big end. They come in at a different time than the Erie fish do, and they do different things than the Erie fish do. So the fish that come from St. Clair, you can tell they're St. Clair fish because of where they are, when they come, and kind of how they set up. And you can tell the fish that come from Erie because of what they do. They do two different things, and you can kind of figure out which group of fish you're dealing with. If you had them side by side, can you visibly see a difference in the two fish? Not the two Lake Erie or Lake St. Clair fish, because a lot of times, here's what people have to remember: we have to stop looking at Erie, Detroit, Lake St. Clair River, Lake Huron, Saginaw Bay. We can't look at that as 5 different or 6 different bodies of water. That is one system. Those fish are moving through that system, and a fish that spawns in Detroit River today may spawn in Lake Erie next year, may spawn in the Saginaw River in 2 years. Really? That corridor, we're finding out with these fish that are tagged, this is a corridor of walleyes that move up and down. They don't necessarily stay in one spot. Depending on when they spawn, when they get done spawning, what bait's available, and where that bait is going, they may hitch onto a school of smelt. They're an early spawner in Detroit and follow that school of smelt all the way up the river channel, all the way through Lake St. Clair, out to the Charity Islands, and stay there all summertime. So these fish there are home bodies, and there are resident fish in the river. There are resident fish in each of those lakes, but you can't think of a fish just comes from Erie to Detroit to spawn and then goes back. Do they? Absolutely they do. Sometimes those fish stay. Sometimes those fish end up in Lake St. Clair. Sometimes they end up in Saginaw Bay. So we have to kind of be leery of thinking, okay, it's an in and an out like a steelhead run or a salmon run. That's not what it is. This is not a run. It's a migration, depending on what walleyes need at a specific time of year. In the past, hand lining was the way that the locals caught their fish, and then you guys came in and you taught people how to drift and jig. Last week, we had your buddy Roy Miller on talking about trolling for springtime walleye in the river. What's going to be your plan of attack this spring, Lance? So when I go to Detroit, I'm a jigger first, just because I'm going to troll all summer. So I try to find jigging fish. Now, saying that, my job is to catch as many fish as I can for my customers, especially if they don't care how they catch them. So I'm always ready to pull bottom bouncers and crawler harnesses. I'm ready. I have been ready the last 2 years. This will be my second year. I'm ready to pull crankbaits if I need to. Obviously, we're ready to jig, and we're ready to have to. So I'm going to vertical jig until the fish tell me that that's not what they want, right? Remember, fish location and fish activity dictates presentation. We can't go the other way around. We can't. I'm going to vertical jig, and the fish are 4 feet off the bottom, and they're really active. They're not even going to see your jig on the bottom. So we have to dictate our presentation to where the fish are location-wise and where they are activity level-wise. That's kind of that's the process, is figure out those two things, then dictate your presentation. But on the Detroit River, most days there are fish that are on the bottom that are feeding actively on bottom holding bait fish, and we can catch them vertical jigging. That's my number one, but I am ready to make adjustments if I have to make sure that we get as many fish in the live well as we can. Bottom bouncers and crawler harnesses. I would think that's a recipe for snags and breakoffs in the Detroit River. If you do it right, it's not too bad. Is it annoying? Yes. Can it be frustrating? Absolutely. Can it be effective? Without question, it can be effective. So it's probably my least favorite way to catch fish, just because of all that, right? There's a lot to it. The boat control's different. The people that are fishing have to participate a little bit more. They have to do a little bit more than just drop their jig to the bottom. But if those fish come off the bottom 2 or 3 feet, and they get aggressive, especially when they're spread out on flats, you can do a pretty good number on them with bouncers and crawler harnesses if you know how to do it right. You said that your goal for this spring, as in all of your seasons, is to catch the maximum number of fish for your clients. I know you keep copious records. Is it okay for me to ask you how many fish you will take out of the Detroit River this springtime? Is that a trade? If it's a trade secret, that's okay. You're good to go. Last year, this is not a harvest, but last year I think our total legal catch number was right around 3,400. So that's kind of where we were last year with that. So, you figure I'm looking at my calendar here, so 30, let's call it 60 times 2, 120 minus. So I'm gonna do about 100 trips on the Detroit River. I try to take 24 fish per trip. For clients, I don't keep any fish for me because they can't go home with my fish. So 4 people in the truck, they have to take home a 4-person limit. So 2,400. If I have 100 charters, 2,400 is my number for a full live well every trip. And then we catch another 1,000 or so above and beyond that. We had 3 100 fish days yesterday, or three 100 fish trips last year.
Wow.
And multiple trips where we caught 40, 45, 50 fish. So, it's just the right place at the right time, and I'm there every day. So, do I have a little bit of fishing skill? Sure. I'm not gonna say no, but if you put a little bit of work in, a little bit of effort, you think about it a little bit. The Detroit River is loaded with fish. They're usually pretty aggressive and want to bite. If you just keep moving and find that right little depth, find that right little area where the fish are, and you can make a little fine tuning to your presentation, limits should be the norm down there most days.
100 trips, Lance. Do you ever get sick of it?
I'm not sick of it. I'm tired about trip 7. But I'm
7. You got 93 more to go.
I'm kind of, ask some of the guys who come the last week of my trips. I'm kind of a zombie, right? It's kind of Groundhog Day, right? And remember, I live in Flint, so I'm 98 miles from my boat ramp. So I rent a house down there. So when I leave here, and this is why I don't go early, right? There's people fishing right now. This is why I don't go early. When I go, if I'm not going to lose 2 days in a row to weather, I don't come home. So I will leave here probably the 24th of March, and if I'm not going to lose 2 days in a row to weather, I am in Detroit until May 24th.
Wow.
And that is my life. It is get up in the morning, it is fish, it is go to lunch, it is take a little nap, it is do a little bit of content, it is go fishing, it is get done, do my live fishing report at 9, answer some questions, eat some dinner, go to bed.
I want to give you the opportunity to do a little more radio content. I want to offer you the coveted third, Lance. You going to stick around?
I'm always going to stick around.
See, I didn't even have to ask. Lance Valentine of the Walleye Zone, thewalleyezone.com, thewalleyezone.com. When Lance is on, you can pretty much bet it's pretty much going to be the coveted third segment. And we will do that after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine, and then we'll wrap up this week's show with another icon in the outdoor world, Chef Dixie Dave Minar. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. Well, that's interesting. In Manistee and in Manistique in the Yup on WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can also hear us in Saginaw, WSGW 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now for these 3 hours. I call it the Outdoor Magazine studio. Although I found out, and this really, see, I'm usually in here on a Wednesday. Well, this week I'm in here on a Monday. I found out that on Monday, the same chair that I'm sitting in right now, there's another guy in here. His name is Joe Volk. And John Dent, I'm not happy about this, okay? I'm looking at John right now, and he's got a grin on his face. He's like, okay, I was hoping Avery wouldn't find this out. Well, I did find it out, John, and I'm not happy at all, and I'm holding you personally responsible. Although I have to admit that Jonathan Dent does a great job. I appreciate his help so very much here on the show, but I'm not real happy with John right now, and I'm really not happy with Joe Volk. And when he comes in, I'm going to have a talk with him. So in the meantime, I'm going to calm myself down, talking with Sir Lancelot, Lance Valentine of the Walleye Zone, thewalleyezone.com. Lance, do you ever have those things when people they get in your way and they just try to cause you problems and they just irritate you?
Every day on the Detroit River, yeah.
Every day. So, Lance, what were we talking about before the break? Do you remember? Because I don't.
We were talking about big walleyes. We were talking about the Detroit River. We were talking about a lot of different things as far as river fishing goes.
So, all right, let me change our direction here a little bit or continue on, depending on how you look at it. Earlier in the show, we had Russ Clark of Seahawk Charters on, and Russ said, look, if you want to learn about fishing, you hire a charter, a captain, a guide for a day or two. I agree completely. If somebody wants to fish the Detroit River and learn it, hire you, Lance Valentine, or one of the other excellent guides down there. Let's go beyond that, though. Give me your advice for somebody coming into the river. How do they start? Where do they go? What do they do?
Yeah, so I'm going to do a little bit of shameless self-promotion because I think it's the best way to do it. Head over to the walleyeZone.com, get yourself a free account with your email address. Go to go to the topic of the month and the free stuff. And what you're going to find is you're going to find a link to a seminar called The Beginner's Guide to the Detroit River. Covers everything you need to know about the Detroit River. After you watch that, scroll down a little bit where you found that seminar. Click on the Guide to the Detroit River Boat Ramps and the Guide to the Detroit River Bait Shops. Everything you need to know about getting started on the Detroit River is there. That is the best place to start. The other thing I would tell you is this. Use 1 ounce or ounce and a half jigs. Don't worry about being light right now. Learn how to use your boat control. And I'll make it simple for you on location on the Detroit River. Find a map, find out where Mud Island is, and if you can see Mud Island from where you're fishing, you're in a good spot. If you do those things when you first get started, don't try to make it too big of a deal. Don't try to make it too hard. You're probably going to get out there, enjoy your time out there, and probably catch some fish.
Lance,
How's that?
I think it's outstanding. But when you say use a big jig, hey, listen, I fished with Gary Roach, the man himself, years ago, and he was fishing with an 1/8-ounce jig and catching fish. How come you, Lance, have to use such a big jig?
Well, here's the problem. Nobody listening here is Gary Roach, so that's part of the problem.
Yeah, true.
And we've learned over the years, right? You have to stay vertical. You have to be able to feel your jig. And we've learned that because we are fishing vertical, there really isn't any pull on the jig. There is no resistance on the jig, so it's not something that walleyes can't grab because it's simply going up and down in the water column. So all a fish has to do is open his mouth, suck it in, and stop it, and you've got him. So big jigs are easier to keep vertical. They're easier to feel. They're easier to feel bites. You're going to get less snags. You're going to feel more fish. You're going to stay vertical. And when you do that, you're going to have a whole lot more fun than trying to do this the hard way with a really, really light jig.
You know, I'm just busting your chops on the jig size because once you explained it to me about big jigs, keeping contact with the bottom, feeling your jig, and the fact the walleye don't care, it made complete sense. I mean, think about, well, you've probably seen this, how frustrating it would be to bring a newbie or anybody on that river and try to hit bottom with a 1/4-ounce jig.
Yeah, especially the guys trying to control the boat, right? And there's so much going on. You're trying to learn the boat control, and there's people around you, and there's people behind you, and you're like, just ounce. You know, I would tell you an ounce in the front of the boat, ounce and a half for everybody else. Just go fishing. Forget about all the other crap. Like I said, if you can see Mud Island, which is just north of Wyandotte, you are in a good spot. Now, you may have to change depths. They may be in 10 feet one day and 25 feet the next day and 40 feet the next day. But if you stay around that Mud Island area, you have everything you need at every depth with every type of bottom composition, every type of current to hold walleyes all year long.
Minnows or plastic?
I haven't bought a minnow in, I'm going on, I don't know, year 18 or 19. So plastics, I would tell you something green or chartreuse on your jig head, and your plastic should be brown, black, green, maybe dark purple, right? There's nothing that lives on the bottom of the Detroit River that's white with blue and chartreuse spots. Your body should look like a natural bait fish. So it should be that brown, orange, green, dark purple, black, that type of color. I like a little color on my jig head because the water can get a little murky, and walleye see orange and chartreuse and green and orange really well. So one of those three colors, hey, Fire Tiger has all three. And then put a dark body on it, about 3.5, 4 inches, go fishing.
Lance Valentine, thank you for the fishing seminar. I appreciate that. Check out his website, thewalleyezone.com, thewalleyezone.com. Now you see why Lance is really one of my favorite people to talk with. And look, even when we're not talking fishing, Lance is one of my favorite people. He's just a good guy. After the break, another good guy, wild game chef extraordinaire, Dixie Dave Minar. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. So glad to have you along with us. You know, honestly, this is the fastest 3 hours of my week. It seems like I just sat down here in the studio. And now we're wrapping up the show. And we wrap up each week's show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. David, welcome back, buddy. How are you?
I'm very good, Mike. And yourself?
I am doing wonderful. As we're here in the studio, I don't know what it looks like out your window right now, but here in the studio, it looks like springtime, so I'm getting kind of geeked.
Really, I'm telling you what, my same idea. I'm getting geeked.
What do you have for us this week, David, for a recipe?
Well, we're on page 136 in the cookbook, and it's venison and black bean chili.
Excellent, excellent. Let's hear it.
Yeah, this time of the year, you know. So, okay, this is for a large batch. You need 2 pounds of lean ground venison, a medium onion diced small, 2 stalks of celery diced small. You could use a couple of jalapeno peppers if you want the spiciness level to be more than with what the chili powder is going to give you. So it's kind of an optional, more or less, to taste. 3 large cans of diced California tomatoes, a large can of tomato puree, 1 pound of dried black beans, 1 pound of red beans, and we're going to use better than bouillon instead of the bouillon cubes. So a couple of tablespoons of that. Beef, chili powder to taste, more or less, however much you like. It might be spicy enough, like I said, without the jalapeno peppers, but if you want it a little zippy, put 1 or 2 jalapeno peppers diced fine in it, and a little bit of garlic to taste. So the method is going to be in a large, heavy saucepan, brown the meat, onion, celery, and jalapenos if used. Add the tomatoes and puree, bring it up to a boil, and then what you're going to do is you're going to add the beans and the chili powder and the garlic. And once it comes back to a boil, you're going to reduce the heat down to a simmer, just barely bubbling, because you're going to cook this for a couple of hours. And then you're going to slowly add the bouillon. You want to make sure that you stir the bottom very well so that the paste doesn't scorch. Cook uncovered for a couple of hours or until the beans are done. And you want to stir this quite often so that it doesn't stick on the bottom. And this is a great way to use some ground venison. And then when you're going to serve this, you could sprinkle some fine diced onions and shredded cheddar on top for each of the bowls. And, man, this is a great way. We make this quite often.
Man, you can't go wrong with venison chili, can you?
No. We love it.
Oh, and I like what you're saying, too, is that you can tweak this recipe. You can modify this recipe to really get it the way you and your family want it.
Exactly. You know, whether you add the jalapeno peppers or more garlic or less garlic, chili powder, it's just whatever your family enjoys.
How long, Dave, can you keep venison frozen in the freezer? How long will it stay good? Do you know?
A year.
A year. Okay.
As long as it's been sealed, you got no problem whatsoever. Or if it comes in those little bags, you know, that they package up the ground meat in, because they seal it up real good, and it should last you a whole year with no problem.
And is there an easier recipe to make than chili, though? I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Really? I don't know. Maybe stew.
Yeah. Well, I know I have video of venison stew. I was racking my brain to think if I have video of venison chili. I will look. If we've got it, I'll post it, Dave.
It's on your list.
Then I must have it. All right, I'll keep looking for it.
Okay.
David, what about, I want to talk a little bit about your professional career in just a couple of minutes that we have left here. Now, these days, you're cooking at the King's Dish in Standish. Tell me more about that.
Well, it's a pretty new restaurant. It's only been there a year in November. Kevin King, they used to own Iva's, or they still own Iva's, the family does, and Iva's Chicken up in Sterling. And it's a great little restaurant. It has a lot of stuff, and we've been really busy. I feel blessed to be able to be part of this crew.
It seems like it's perfect, right? Because you get the joy of doing what you love, and that is being in the kitchen, and yet you don't have to worry about everything else.
Right. I just go in, do my job, have a good time, and leave, and then don't think about it until the next time to work.
Perfect. And I know for a fact that you will come out and see people if they say, hey, Dave, can Dave come out and see us? You'll do it, won't you?
Absolutely. It's quite often that I do that.
Everybody wants to see wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. David, always a pleasure. I will post that. I'll look for that video. I'll post it, and then you and I will talk again next week.
All righty. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. I got to wrap up this week's show. In fact, when I look at the rundown, they're all good people. But this last hour, Lance Valentine and Dixie Dave, I tell you what, you couldn't ask for two nicer people. That'll wrap up this week's Outdoor Magazine show. My name is Mike Avery. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't forget, reservations are now open for our next Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack Restaurant, the Forward Corporation Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch. That is April 15th, tax day. Call 989-343-0892 for reservations, or shoot me an email to Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'll hook you up.